I've been on a heavy grind, stacking silver in my off time. Shift clicking, loot, it's all mine. Catch him slipping, left him dripping. Pistol gripping, big ol' prism. See me riding swiftly on my Swifty. Best to miss me with that gang shit. Got a bag full of loot, I'm trying to bank it. If I'm diving dungeon, then we searching for the juicy loot. Stomping down, scuffing up his Judy boots. Chew 'em up, spit 'em out like some juicy fruit. I'm the rallies in my Halley for your backline. Trying to make everybody flatline. Ain't no stalling, if I spot 'em, then I'm calling for your falling. I'm a solo dungeon savage, if it's Gucci, gotta have it. I'm so used to living lavish. Man, I'm doing damage to your virgin, dropping permits like a surgeon. Ain't no running, boy, we purging, snagging loot up like a surgeon. Know you heard me, don't get worried, I'm just doing what I had to do. Ain't nobody mad at you, it's plain to see. You'll do the same to me, aim to please. If I see you lacking, then I'm macking. Hard flag of faction, make it happen, no relaxing. I'm just maxing, man, I'm beast smoke with a vulture's flow. Like to cut your throat, where your cultures go. So often catch 'em plotting, do 'em dirty, left 'em rotten, spitting bursts and vile curses, snatch the food up off your plate. Don't get rude or desecrate, don't hesitate, bet 'em straight, purity boots, let me levitate. Ain't no gear fearing me, just bourbon and beer in me. I'm swerving, you hearing me, only cleanses, no curing me. Yeah, I see your lanes, braving with your raven. First we tame 'em, then we take 'em. Big boy blaze 'em, then we bake 'em. Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome to Albion TV presents the AO Daily Show, your source of real news in an unreal world. Keeping you up to date on the latest news, events, and the great community of Albion Online. Today is Sunday, the 21st of February, 2021. I am your host, the Chosen One, and joining me today, as always, the great, the powerful, the man who controls all the knobs, switches, and buttons. Yes, I have Bogul here with me today.
Hello, sir.
Hi,
Hello,
Bogul.
sir. Sometimes that works kind of weird, doesn't it? Clicking on random buttons on streams. It's well. Welcome to the show,
Sometimes
guys.
you hit the right ones. You know, sometimes you hit the right ones. It's okay.
And sometimes you just click randomly. That's life, right? That's life for you.
Well, did you play the musics?
I played a little bit of Bourbon Bandit, yeah. But today is not about the music. Today is about a little bit of, I think, what Bourbon Bandit was singing about or rapping about, which is dungeon diving,
yeah.
small-scale PvP.
Yeah, a little bit of that. A little bit of ganking involved in today's guests. So we should, I think we should just start it right away because we do have to get back here very soon for more ZVZ coverage. And we don't have time to mess around. I will be giving away raffles during this interview. So enjoy it. Keep your eye on chat, and hopefully your name gets drawn. And we'll talk to you after the interview. Bye.
All right. Here we go.
Welcome to the Albion TV interview series. I am the Chosen One, and today I am joined by Bogul as we will be interviewing Ganty, the GM of Shock Tactics. I don't know a whole lot about these guys. I know that they hang out in the Royals and kill people, but other than that, I don't know much at all. So we're going to leave that to Ganty to tell us. So why don't you let us know a little bit about you, when you started, and how you started murdering people in the red zones.
Sure thing. I started playing about 3 years ago. Before that, I took a big break from gaming. My previous gaming was sort of full loot PvP games. And when I quit for about 7 years, one of my friends randomly messaged me one day saying, you got to try out this game. It's full loot PvP right up your street. So I logged on. Thought, yeah, this is the kind of game I want to play. I think when we first started playing, I was in Sun, and got involved in some of the ZVZ there. Not really my thing. We probably played for about 3 months, and then my friends at the time quit the game, and I started watching Stabber on stream and came across Killer Instinct. And luckily, I messaged one of the guys in there who took me under his wing, and I got into Killer Instinct with about 5 mil PvP fame and learned a lot about the small scale side of the game. And since then, that's all I've done is small scale content, dungeon diving, outnumbered fights, ganking as a way of making money. So in terms of previous guild history, that's all that I did. Killer Instinct then went quite inactive. They were mostly an NA guild, and I'm an EU player, so at times finding content was hard. They then merged to Rang when the Queen update came out, and I just wasn't interested in ZVZ. So I moved into a smaller group that was some Aussie players. And again, the sort of time difference became a bit of an issue. So I decided that I was going to make Shock Tactics. And one of my friends from Killer Instinct, who happened to be an EU player as well, said, yeah, go for it. I'll give you a hand and we'll see if we can make something from it. And yeah, up until that point, that's pretty much my Albion history. And then the rest is history in Shock Tactics.
When did you guys form Shock Tactics? Around what season?
I think it was June of last year.
Okay. All right. So that would
Roughly.
put you into season 9, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. All right. Just to get an idea of when you've been doing this. And as part of Shock Tactics, what is your primary gameplay style? What do you guys go out and do? You said small scale PvP. That means, I'm guessing, sub 20 players in your group?
Well, to be honest with you, when we first started the guild, we were literally a 2-man guild, and we said, look, we're only going to recruit one type of player, and that's someone who wants to be small scale focused and, to be honest with you, has a good attitude. We said we didn't want any egos in this guild. I work quite a lot, so I just wanted to get online and basically have a good time in the game, and that's how we recruited people. So to begin with, I think we had around 6 or 7 members. And we would just, at the time, we weren't even royal. We were just Martlock based, and we would just gank in Martlock and then do 2 to 3 man dungeon dives in Red Tree, which was insane at the time. There wasn't many people doing that. We had a lot of success doing that. And then from there, I started making YouTube videos. A few other people were making YouTube videos, and we got kind of known in the community. And then people just started sort of applying from that point, and then we upped the requirements in the guild and just tried to make it harder and harder and harder, because I've got a 25-man cap on the guild, and I think we're at 25 or 24 at the minute, to be honest.
Definitely smaller than 20 man. You're talking about like 5 man and less. You're talking about the ability to go into the roads and not get locked out of a portal.
Yeah, most of the groups, especially in the early days of the guild, were like 2 to 5 man.
All right, and what are you guys generally running now? About 5 to 10 or so, something in that area?
In the Royals, we still do like 2 to 3 man dungeon diving. In the faction side of things, we probably pull anywhere between 8 to 20. We got a few friends who join us, but there's quite a lot of big faction bobs moving around in the Royals. And on the fighting side of things, it's just nice to take. You need like probably 10 to 12 people to have a decent comp where you can fight, say, I don't know, 25, 30 people.
Okay. And what do you do with that group there? And you said in the faction fights. So you're not going up against the big blobs. You're trying to maybe engage with 2 groups that are already fighting, or finding the smaller groups who are engaged in like heart transport, something along those lines?
Yeah, obviously we're not, when we got out as a 12-man, we won't necessarily look for the groups that are assaulting another city. But if there's, say, a 30 to 40 man transport group, then yeah, we'll take the fight. Why not? A lot of the time they're more bothered about sort of saving their gear than actually thinking about the fight. I'm sure if they actually turned and worked as a team, a lot of the time we'd be losing those fights. But no, we have some really good sort of 10v20s, 10v30s against those groups. So we just sort of go out into the Royals and hunt the biggest groups that we can without being too stupid.
And how do you go about that? Earlier we were talking, and Bogul said that something about risk-free gameplay.
I mean, if you read the Reddit and if you read the forums, right, there's this preconception that if you are of the ganking type and if you are of the Royal Zone PvP type, then the only thing you do is you wear 4.1 gear and you have super low in like costs of your gear, and you get this huge mammoth kills, and maybe your videos are responsible for that image.
Yeah, 100%. I get probably just as much criticism as I do praise from the ganking videos. I think a lot of people think that you can just go out as a group of 5, put on some claws, and you'll get a kill whenever you want to get a kill. But like I said to people who criticize it, you get a group of 5 or 6 people and go out into the Royals and see how easy it is. I know the gear, obviously you don't need big gear. I've released guides telling people what gear that you need to use. Realistically, it's probably 300k is the value of a ganking set. But I don't know, it's certainly not risk-free, and it's not guaranteed loot, if you like. I think there's, me personally and our guild, I think there's a lot of issues with the being red flagged in the Royals right now. I know that, like I said, a lot of people think that it's a very simple sort of, you just go out as a group of 5, you're in low gear, you kill whatever you want, you come back and you get 200 million in loot. But you got to think, when you're watching my videos, that's always the best bits. I can guarantee you we die 10 times more than the amount of people that we kill.
Do you have any sort of numbers to put that into relation, or is it, could you say, like, you know, for on a good day with a 300k set you make, like, I don't know, $1 million profit, or do you have any sort of relation?
Oh, no, I won't lie to you about the profit. I'd say on a decent ganking session, you probably go through 4 mil in gear. I maybe die, I don't know, 10 or 15 times, and between 7 or 8 people, the loot split can be anywhere from 100 mil to 300 mil.
That doesn't seem too bad.
No, it's, don't get me wrong, it's in terms of profit, it's good, but that's not every single time, and that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is you set up a ganking session, you go out into the Royals, and like it is 99% of the time these days, you step foot out of Carlin's doors and you get 40 blues chasing you as one red flag player. And that's not me just whining about things. That's genuinely what happens these days. There's certainly, for me, when I first started ganking and playing the game back in the old Royals, if you like, when there was more red zones, the Royals just felt like a risky place. If transporters zoned into a zone and saw like the count on the hard flag, they'd just turn back. Whereas now it's like, right, we're just going to run through, because realistically there's going to be a huge group of blue police chasing these reds, and I just think that it's lost a little bit of its risky feel in the Royals. That hopefully, if they expand on the red zones, that may come back. But in terms of what we do, yes, we make a lot of money. I won't lie to you and say that we don't make profit out of it, because we certainly do. But I think Zergs of Blues chasing down hard flag players to the end of the end of the earth has become kind of just the normal in the Royals. And me personally, I'd like to see something done to change things around a little bit. The sort of maps surrounding Carlion seem to be hot zones, because there's no real content offered in the zones that are further away. So outside Carlion seems to be where everything happens. And yeah, in terms of gankers versus the transporter, it's, you know, win-win. If we catch the guy and there's no one around, then it's easy profit. But nowadays it's really not like that. You go out, most of the blue players just use numbers to their advantage, which is fine. They're entitled to do that. But they will wear gear that's worthless just the same as what we do. They'll wait for you to kill the transporter, and then they will attack you. And wait for the loot to come available, and then they get the reward for your hard work, is how it feels sometimes. They don't get any outlaw debuff. They don't get any penalties for attacking you first. So when we're ganking, it's profitable for, or it feels like it's profitable for the blues to just follow you around. And I think it could have a bit more thought put into that side of the game. I do find it another thing that's kind of crazy, which happens to us quite regular, is you'll kill someone, or you'll be following a transporter who makes it into the underwear. You'll kill that guy, and then the usual blue police blob comes, it kills you, and then the guy can actually fast travel back to Carlion and loot his body before you can actually get back out there and access it, due to it being guarded by blues. And that's just kind of something that me and the guys, I don't know, takes a bit of getting your head around.
What would you like to see changed for that? Because I believe it is designed right now to be easier for the people who are generally hunted than the hunters themselves.
Yeah. In terms of changes, I think that there should be some kind of penalty for a blue that attacks the reds first. If you're a red and you attack them first, then fair enough. But I think if a blue attacks a red first, they should get an outlaw debuff or something like that. The issue is that you can, as a group, we can deal with it, because say you get a group of like 10, 20 blues following you around, which isn't abnormal. All we would do is take a fight set swap with you. So my group would, we'd work out a comp and say, right, we're going to kill the transporter, and then after this, we know that we're going to get a group of blues on us, so we're going to have to kill those as well. The only issue is that we'd probably kill all those blues and instantly go dreaded. So you kill one transporter, you go dreaded, you have to then do a rep farm to then kill another transporter. So yes, there is a way around it, and you can sort of fight back against them, but it then ruins the content that you're actually trying to do. The reputation system for me, I'm sure I'm speaking as someone who is predominantly hard flag, but they could scrap the reputation system altogether for me.
As somebody who was completely punished by the reputation system myself, I will never forget April 1st, 2017. I understand the dislike for that. Would it be less detrimental if there was a place you could still go while dreaded?
The problem is like in the Royals, the transport routes, if you like, are set routes. Everyone kind of knows not just the gankers, the police, the transporters themselves, they all use the same routes. So in this kind of content, if when you went dreaded, there was somewhere else that you could go, the issue is that there's no point lying about it. We're going into the Royals and we're doing it because that is the place where the most money is. So when you go dreaded, sure, you can say, right, I'm dreaded, I'm going to go and gank in the black zone, but it doesn't provide the amount of profit as ganking does, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And the majority of us guys don't use it. Well, we have no other form of making money. Like I say in my videos, I'm not someone for PvE. I don't craft or anything like that. I'm just here to kill people. So if I can make money from doing that, it's a lot better.
So is the problem that there is set paths you have to go to get somewhere safe, or is it that there's no place for you to go to not be hunted as a dreaded
there's
player?
no... As a dreaded player, you mean once you're already out in the Royals?
Yeah.
To be honest with you, like I was previously saying, the zones outside Carlion, they're always the hot zones: Mardale, Deadvein, Long Timber, and the transporters generally use the same routes. So you just get the blues sitting in those zones, or a lot of the time they'll just wait in the underwear. And as soon as they see you zone, well, they know that you're zoning for a reason. And I guess, I suppose I put the videos on YouTube because people enjoy watching the content, but then you obviously do get a percentage of players that will see our guild, or you see particular players' names and think, well, I know what they're doing. They're in that gear. I'm going to chase these guys down because I know they've either already killed someone who's got a lot of loot on them, or they're going to kill someone who's got a lot of loot on them. So, yeah. It's not that there's necessarily safe spot. Well, there is no safe spot as a hard flag player, I guess. And I'm not necessarily asking for a safe spot, so to speak, but I just think certain things, recent updates have probably gone in favor of the blue player rather than the hard flag player, and it certainly feels a lot less. Or the risk has now moved to being hard flagged rather than at one point. I don't know whether it's just because of how much this game's growing. At one point, if you were red flagged in a zone, people just wouldn't bother getting involved with you.
They feared it. There's no more of that now because they just know they can go, hey, 50 other players in this zone. There's two guys who are hard flagged.
Yeah, pretty much.
And what would you think would be the anything that could be done to balance it in the other direction? I'm not saying it should be. I just want to hear what your opinions on it are.
One thing that we say as a group, or one thing that really gets messes up our content, if you like, occasionally when it really shouldn't. Again, going back to faction, is we'll be out as a group of hard flag players, and you'll get a group that are doing a faction transport, and most of the time the guys that run faction transports will run a fighting comp, and in ganking gear there's not a great deal that you can do against that. And the amount of times that we'll be killing a guy and then a random faction blob comes along, wipes you, the guy sort of carries on his way, and I feel like they're almost two separate parts of the game and should be separated. It would make no difference to me if, as a hard flag player, you couldn't attack a faction flag player in any zone, not just like yellows. I think you could split the game up a little bit and keep it as sort of reds versus blues or hard flag. I just think that you have a lot of people on your back as a hard flag player, and I think that something could be done so that it's a little bit more balanced, whether that be, as I say, just totally remove the combat system for hard flag versus faction flag, especially with the new update coming. There's going to be a ton more faction guys out. There's going to be a ton more groups out because it's promoting group content. And then it's just another thing that I feel like as a hard flag player, you're going to go out there and you're just going to have even more groups to contend with who are likely to be roaming around the same zones that the transport guys are coming. And it's not like these faction guys are actually hunting you. They're not the issue. They're trying to get content themselves, and we manage to get it ourselves when we do that too. But by chance, you're just dropping on something else, and I don't know. It doesn't feel right.
Do you think it would be possible for you to continue your style of gameplay by choosing a faction and fighting for it, and instead of hanging out near your faction's general areas, you spend your time, farther away and picking on other factions? I mean, it would allow you to get additional benefits that wouldn't be available to you otherwise, but it also seems to provide you with very similar, if not the exact same style of gameplay that you seem to enjoy now. But also take away some of these negatives that you're experiencing. You'd still be able to go to the cities. You'd still be able to engage with having the ability to run into other people who were friendly towards you. You could move through different areas of the map without worrying about everybody just seeing you as the enemy and following you. If you're, say, Martlocked flagged and head over to Limehurst, you're going to be able to get a lot of content, as it sounds like this new faction flag system will almost ask you to be faction flagged all the time. You could find quite a bit of gameplay like that, or is that something you're just not interested in because you want to be a pirate?
No. To be honest with you, most of the guys in the guild, I think if you asked them what their favorite content is that we do, it's fighting. It's small scale fighting. I'd say 80% of the guild just use ganking as a means of making money to pay for big sets to go out and die fighting. So it's not, I'm really looking forward to the new faction update, and I think for the majority of our guild it's going to offer a ton of content. The issue is that faction ganking doesn't offer anywhere near the same amount of money as what killing black market transporters does. So yes, you'll be able to flag and head out further into the Royals and find fights wherever you want them, go into quieter zones. But in this particular type of content, I think it's going to make it worse than it is better.
And is your concern that by removing or making it more difficult for people like you to engage in your style of gameplay, will that make it just too easy to transport? Is that something that you see happening now, is that the transporting has become less dangerous and less risk for the amount of rewards that people are getting for it?
100%. I mean, we see, obviously, we do a lot of ganking, and we see the same people transporting day in, day out. It's something that they obviously make a ton of money out of. That's their method. Everyone's got their own method. Mine is from killing those guys. But I think the more sort of blues or faction, if you like, that are forced into the Royals, the easier it is the transporters have. And I think that if you're transporting a ton of loot to the main cities or from the outer cities into Carlion, then I think there has to be huge risk. You shouldn't be. A lot of people comment on our YouTube videos saying, there's no skill in this. It's, 5 guys killing one guy and getting 25, 30 mil. But if that guy makes it to Carlion, they make a hell of a lot of money from selling this stuff on the black market or on Carlion market. So then it just reverts back to the same thing. Why should it be so easy for someone to literally transport loot from one place to another and make a ton of money? There has to be a huge risk. If you're going to... The main reason why I started playing this game is because it's full loot PvP. And as horrible as it sounds, I love killing someone, opening up the body and thinking, holy cow, this guy just lost an absolute ton of loot. There has to be that risk. And I think you've got to keep that risk up. And a few of the updates recently, they just feel like on the smaller scale side of things, it's, although I think the intention has been to necessarily help in certain places, I think it's had a negative effect on ganking in particular. It's had a real hard effect on it. We first saw like... Go on, sorry.
Sorry to jump in here, but I do want to ask two things, because you mentioned both transporting and the sort of red zones, and I'm curious where people go through, because since Queen and the Roads of Avalon made it into the game, a whole new avenue of quote unquote transporting made it into the game too.
Yep.
And I was wondering if that makes a big difference for you guys, or are you just, not bothered by portals?
The zones that were the only difference, it made a little difference because it just meant that you technically have less space to actually kill someone in. For example, if you found a target in Dead Vein and prior to Queen, you knew that you had sort of Slow Tree as a safety zone. If they managed to get through there, you had another zone to chase them through. So it sort of pushed everything together. But that also, I'll touch back on that, that also pushed everyone into a much tighter red zone, which is why it seems to be a lot busier also. But in terms of the transport routes, no, they all stayed the same. Yeah, there's at the odd time, there'll be a good road from one place to another, but most of you regular transporting guys, they just seem to use the same routes. So it's not like we never use or we rarely use the roads for that kind of content. If we ever go into the roads, it's always with fight sets, to be honest.
Okay. And with how it looks like, if you look at the video, the dev talk that was released, it looks like the red zone's going to get bigger. Yep. Do you think that will solve some of the issues, or is it not going to be meaningful enough if there was another, red zone in between? Because I hear a lot of people are very concerned that it's now quote unquote too far and too scary if there's another 1 or 2 red zones in between.
Aww.
I mean, that's what it used to be like, right? You used to have to get through 2 red zones to get to, or at least 2 red zones to get to Carlion. I think it's going to depend on how important the red zones that are further away from Carlion, how important they are from like a faction point of view. If you've got like busy zones that are quite far out, then that could be quite good because it's going to force people to spread out a lot more in the Royals. But if you sort of get like minimal rewards or points from the outer zones. I'm not 100% sure exactly the layout of it yet. I think they need to try and sort of force people to spread out in the Royals for it to take the amount of players that are there right now. If you don't do that, then like I said before, not only are you going to get the huge amount of blue players that already have a presence in the Royals, but you're also going to get the faction guys, and that's where it's going to get tricky, I think. But we'll see how that develops. In terms of the transport routes, yeah, they've got a little bit more risk, I suppose. They can't turn around in one zone and go back into a yellow zone and then, live to see another day, because you'll just be able to chase them into the next zone. But I kind of think that's how it needs to be honest.
Do you think that the change for PvP status for faction flag in the yellow zones will bring more of the blue zone warriors out of the areas around you, or the blue warriors, I should say, out of the immediate areas of the city and take them over the yellows, where they'll be able to engage in constant combat for very low risk reward, freeing up a lot of the space that you travel in to be more for people who are either transporting or fighting for full loot?
Yeah, I think that your sort of casuals that we get, so when we gank, you get certain names that you see every single time, and I just, we'll be ganking and it just gets called on comms. We've got this guy following us and everyone's like, oh, not again. But then you get quite a lot of casual players that are, I don't know, maybe going into the Royals for the first time, or they've not been in there a lot. And when they see a certain amount of other players already following someone who's red flagged, they think, oh, great, this is my opportunity to kill someone. I'm going to tag on to this party. And I think that's how the masses sort of end up forming. It's not that every time you go out, there's a dedicated 40-man group that chases you around. It's just that they mass up based on certain other guys. So I think that
So you're saying Sternwolf isn't there every day?
No, not every day. I think that the outer sort of maps could sort of take away some of those casuals, yeah, because as you say, it offers some content. It's not huge risk to those guys, and I think people that are wanting to get involved in regular fighting that isn't huge risk will probably head to those zones. So I'm hoping that it does spread some of the population out, if you like. But then I think that with the new rewards and whatnot, I think that people who don't necessarily get involved in faction now are going to start getting involved in factions. So then I think that it may also get busier from that standpoint of, there's going to be, yes, there'll be more people heading out into the wider zones, but then you're going to see groups coming into the Royals that previously didn't come into the Royals.
Well, hopefully,
and then
with the front system that they have proposed, with the faction players generally congregating to certain areas where the battle is going to occur, you won't have to worry about those guys as much while you're ganking, because, like you said, the people who are still doing the black market transports, they're going to have to not only avoid that, but they're also going to have to, go through a bunch of red zones. You can probably determine a couple, 2-3 areas where you will know that there's not going to be a large faction fight presence, and you can go there. And with the spreading out of the player base out of some of the immediate city areas where you see so much of the faction fighting occurring, and so much of the blue zone warrior mentality moving out of that area, that it might give more danger to certain areas on the map, like that you'll be able to use to your advantage. More dangerous for the transports themselves, because there'll be lower populations. There won't be as much incentive. The people that you'll see there will be people in gathering gear and such, or out there fame farming, not people just wandering around looking for content.
Possibly. I mean, the main issue, if I was to use a scenario right now of something that's quite frustrating, is you come across a transporter and they will, if you've got no one around policing you, is what we call it. If you've got no one around policing you, the transporter does one of two things. They either look for the faction blobs or the blue blobs that are on the map, and they head straight in that direction, because they know as soon as they get into that blob, they're safe, because those guys will kill us. Which, if the new faction update is going to promote more groups, then that's the only thing that kind of concerns me, is that the transporters are going to have more ways to get out, because they're going to have more groups that they can run into. If you're a transporter and you see gankers following you, but then all of a sudden you see a group of faction guys running past, you just tag onto that group of faction guys and you know you're safe, because if the gankers follow, the faction guys are going to kill them, because it's free kills. That's the first issue that you tend to have. The second one is just sort of hitting back on the roads, when you mentioned if the routes of the roads made any difference. The routes don't necessarily make a difference, because no one is necessary, or not many people are transporting directly through the roads. But a lot of the transporters will use the roads to what we call abusing the bubble, because I think that the bubble distance when you come out of a road, I think it's far too big. There's certain maps where certain roads spawn, and if the transporter gets into the road, even if it's a 7-man road and you follow them in, they just wait the bubble out. If they get back out of that road, it's just game over. We don't even carry on chasing them, because they can pretty much get the whole way back to Carlion or you've got a very short distance that they don't have a bubble. So that's whilst yes, I know what you're saying by saying, transporters they're going to be coming through quieter zones. If that is the case, it's going to be brilliant. The Royals will be sort of back to what they once were of very risky zones. But if there is a real pull to every zone for groups to go to, then you're going to see bigger groups rolling through every map more consistently, which means the transporters are going to have a get out of jail free card more often.
Okay, well, is there anything that's coming up here that you really do look forward to? You think that'll make your life better coming up?
I think the upcoming update for us is going to be really good. We've been doing a lot of faction fighting recently. Like I said, we sort of go out as anything from 8 to 20 man and hunt down the big faction blobs that are transporting. That can be anything from sort of 25 to 40 man groups. We've been having some really, really good fights recently with certain guilds. There's plenty of guilds also doing this. So we end up getting into some pretty big brawls with other dedicated fighting groups. And I think that this is going to force more people to do that in the new update. And I think that faction is, it's going to become really big for the smaller guilds to get involved in. I think at first, like any update, everyone's going to flock to it, and it'll be really overpopulated and there's going to be some real zergs going on. But I think once it calms down and everyone sort of settles into it and finds out what they're doing, I think for our guild in particular, I think it's going to really offer some very good content.
Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to? Anyone you want to say thanks for all your hard work, or anyone you want to say, God damn you for constantly following me around the world and ruining all my fun?
I'm not going to give anyone the credit for following us around, to be fair. I'd rather not mention any names. But in terms of thank yous to the guild, every member, I'm probably sure every guild leader says that they want to thank every guy, but we only have 25 guild members. And when I started out the guild, we had a goal. Everyone sort of came online with that goal, and everyone has helped. My friend Zanis, who I started the guild with, who was from Killer Instinct, he's pretty much, he is the co-leader of the guild, and I'm sure he would class it as his guild as much as it is mine. I got some good officers, Selena, Booty Slayer, Boris, Tholix. They're all worth mentioning, but now everyone in the guild does as much as one another. There's no one that sort of stands out from the crowd, if you like, just because we all pull our weight just as much. So in terms of the success of the guild, it's been down to everyone, and I'd say thank you to everyone who has been in the guild and everyone who is in there right now, because we've got some good YouTubers and some real dedicated members that have pulled a big presence and helped the guild make make history, if you like, in the ganking scene, which everyone seems to know us for. But I would put the success down to everyone who's in the guild and who has been in the guild, to be honest.
Well, thank you for being on, Ganty. We've learned quite a bit about the state of ganking out there in the world and just what a pain in the ass those guys who don't flag are when they follow you around. I've always seen it from the other perspective of, there's just never enough of them to kill. And I haven't ganked in a while, and I completely blanked my mind that there must be 1,000 of them out there willing to group together at any point in time to just hunt you down to the end of the earth. But I imagine right now, it can be a little bit more difficult with so many people out there. Thank you for being on, and I look forward to hearing more about your adventures.
Thank you for having me, dudes.